What's up guys, I am Lee Morris and I am very excited because right here in front of me I have the brand new Peter Hurley Flex Kit by Wescott. I have not seen the actual finished product, so I'm super excited to open these on video with you guys right now and test them out. This is like a roller case in here, so it all packs down into this one box. Ooh, very, very heavy. All right, let's open this pack up and see what we have in here. So I'm sure you guys have seen LED light panels before. They're like big plastic squares or rectangles and they have dimmer switches and all of the LED lights come on and you can dim them. Some of them you can actually change the color temperature. What's unique about the Flex Kit is the LEDs are placed on a panel that is actually flexible. So you can see all the LEDs on this and I can actually flex this entire thing. And the cool thing about this product is you can pack it down so small. You can pack 4 giant lights into a case this size. You would never be able to do that with a standard LED kit. So here we have one of the panels, one of the smaller panels. Here's the second one, the bigger panel here. Same thing, tons of the LED lights, but very, very flexible. But the case is big enough to where you don't actually have to roll it or fold it up or anything. It does just lay flat across the case. This is the dimmer switch for the smaller panel, so it doesn't need quite as hefty of a power unit. It works in conjunction with the power brick, and then to power the bigger panels, we need the Mac Daddy. This is where a lot of the weight is for this entire kit. This is extremely heavy, very well made feeling. As you can see here, these are the actual corners to the frames, and this is what we're gonna build and we're gonna put together to actually make these lights rigid. So there's Velcro on this, and then there's Velcro around the frame on both sides of the panel. I guess one side is for the light itself, and then the other side is for the scrim. For shooting in some conditions, if you want the most amount of light possible, shooting without the front scrim will work great, but we want a little bit softer light, so let me build the front scrim for this. All right. So this is what a panel looks like here. Let's plug it in and see how bright this thing gets. I have added a 2-stop diffusion panel to the front, so that should tone it down a little bit, but let's see what this does. That is very, very bright. Wow. So at this point, let me just spend some time. I'm going to set up the entire kit, and then I'm going to set them up in an array like the square that Peter Hurley does, and let's do some tests with these, and I'll compare them to the lights that we currently use for video, and I'll show you the pluses and minuses of both units. All right, so I am currently standing in front of a square setup with these lights set to 100% power. This is unbelievably bright. I have a headache right now standing in front of these things. Just so you can get an idea of the power of these lights, we're currently shooting at a 30th of a second at ISO 100 f8. And we could get them a little closer to me if we needed to, but goodness, this is like more light than I have ever been in front of in my life. I'm gonna turn these lights down a little bit. This is like too much light to stand in front of while being indoors. All right, so at this point, I have turned down the power on each of the packs to 25% power, so that should be a 2-stop drop in power. It's much more manageable. I can actually open my eyes a little bit now. Now, when you're in the studio, it may be a bit of overkill, especially if you're shooting people. Like, most people are not gonna be able to stand in front of these lights with their eyes open at full power. But if you're shooting products in the studio and you wanna mix these lights with flashlight, having that much power might actually be useful inside. But the main reason that you're gonna want this much power is because you're gonna be able to mix it with daylight. So if your subject is standing next to a really bright window inside, you're gonna be able to balance it out. Or these actually might be bright enough to go outside and use them with the sunlight to get an evenly balanced shot. So right now I wanna do a quick dimming test. I only have one light panel on and I wanna see how bright it can get and how dim it can get and how many stops of different light there are in between. Right now I have it set to the lowest power setting at 5%. This camera is going to remain stationary with the same exposure, and then this one over here is exposed when it's all the way bright. So I'm going to turn it up here, and as you can see with this camera, I'm way blown out, but I have a correct exposure over here. And from our test, there's about 4.5 stops different of light, so you're going to have that much dimming potential if you buy these lights. So what I want to do now is I'm just going to grab one of the bigger panels, the 1x3 panel, an extension cord, and of course the power pack. Let's go outside and let's see if we can actually use these in conjunction with the sun to get a correct exposure. All right, so I'm currently outside on a porch. As you can see, I am in shade, but behind me, the houses behind me actually are in direct sunlight, and obviously they're gonna be much brighter than me. I have the larger 1x3 panel right here, and I've removed the baffle on the front just so we get all the power that we can, and then I have the power pack here in my hand. Let's turn up the power and let's see if we can get a correct exposure here. It's so bright. It's really unbelievable. Let's now step out into the sun itself and see if we can get a correct exposure while I'm actually being lit by the sun. So at this point, I am standing in direct sunlight. It cannot get any brighter than this. We're right in the middle of the day and the sun is hitting me directly in the face here. Watch if I move in front of this light panel, it's currently off, and just see all of the shade now that I'm in. I'm now going to turn this light on so you can get a direct comparison. Here I am in the sun, here I am in the shade, and let's turn this on. As you can see, it is not as bright as the sun, and of course I'm really close. It feels like it's about 2 stops off, but keep in mind, we're not even using half of the lights that came in the kit here. So you really do have a lot of lighting options when you have this much power. So now that you see the crazy potential of these lights, let's head back to the studio and I'm going to talk about some of the pluses and minuses that I have already found with this kit, having only used it for a few hours now. So let's quickly talk about a few of the things that I'm not a huge fan of, just in the little bit of time that I've been able to play with these units. First of all, you know, it's always a downer when you have to have something huge and heavy like this power pack unit here. I was hoping that the dimmer switch would actually be on the light themselves and you just plug in an AC power cord into the wall. But obviously there's a lot more technology that goes into powering LEDs that I don't fully understand. And so you're going to have a heavy unit like this to control one of the larger 1x3 foot panels. The nice thing about this unit is it really feels nice. It has the handle built into it, and the dimmer switch and the LED panel readout right here is really nice. It feels like this is really expensive and well made, and it's a pleasure to use. Now, the power pack system that works with the smaller panels is completely different, and the dimmer switch on this works totally differently, and it's much more slow to use. It wobbles around. It's made of cheap plastic. It just doesn't feel like these two products were made by the same company, or especially that they belong in the same kit. If I had my way and we could make these lights out of magic, I just wish that they could have put the dimmer switch on the light themselves. I hate having cables running all over the place and I'm getting confused which dimmer is going to which light. I hate dealing with that, but it just seems like at this point with LED technology, this is our only option. One thing that I would love to see Wescott do eventually is to build a power pack that can control more than one light at a time. Most photographers and videographers are going to be setting up 2 lights. I know Peter does the 4-light setup in the front of his subjects, but that's not the way these are going to be used the majority of the time, I would assume. Ideally, if one day they could make a power pack that could control all 4 lights, that would be even better, and it would just be one thing that you have to carry around. But at this point, even if we could just have a smaller power pack with 2, I think that would be a huge upgrade. So let's talk now about how you actually mount this to a stand. You'll notice on the side of each of these, they have a thread mount where you can actually screw in a stud and then you could get it directly into a magic arm or put it on a stand from there. It doesn't actually come with that in the box, and instead what it comes with is this strange clamping system. I couldn't decide if I wanted to clamp on top of the scrim and on the actual back of the light, or you want to peel the Velcro away and kind of slide it in there and then clamp it. I did that because I didn't want to hurt anything that was actually in the light itself. But then you're clamping onto the Velcro that's on the frame. It just seems kind of like a cheap decision to do it like this. I wish instead that they had given us the studs. I would much prefer to screw something in and have it detached from the unit rather than just kind of pushing this on there and screwing it down so tight that it feels like I might be breaking something. I'm not a huge fan of this system. Obviously it does work fine, but it just seems a little bit more cumbersome than actually using the stud mount. But keep in mind that is an option. Each of these frames have the stud mount holes on every single side, so you can mount them from any direction, which is really, really nice. We just don't have enough studs here in the studio, and we don't have the magic arms necessary to test that out right now. So let's talk about this space in the LED market right now, and let's talk about the competition that this product has. If you want to compare this to the standard KinoFlow bulb system, the price is pretty similar. It might be 500 or $1,000 more to get a Kino system rather than the LED system. But KinoFlow also makes LED panels very similar to this. Obviously, they're not on bendable mats like this. A 1x2 panel like this made by KinoFlow, I believe is like $4,000. If you buy the 4-foot version, we're talking $6,600 just for one panel by KinoFlow. Arri makes the exact same looking lights, and the prices are very similar to that. You're gonna pay thousands of dollars per light. So when you think about that, the price for this entire kit of $5,500 is justifiable if this is the type of kit that you were going to buy anyway and you were looking at the competition. Now, if you don't need long panels like this, there are other cheaper options. Right here, I have a light panel, and this is an Astra 1x1. As you can see, it's much smaller. The interesting thing about the light panel is it's all one solid unit. It's gonna be a little bit more difficult to travel with, but it's also much easier to put together just because you pull it out of the box, stick it on a stand, and plug it in, and it's ready to go. The ballast is actually part of the mounting bracket here, and then on the back you can see we have a power adjustment knob, and then this unit in particular has the bi-color, so you can actually turn this knob and change it and make it a little bit more red or a little bit more blue. You cannot get a bi-color option with the Peter Hurley kit right now, but if you go to Wescott's website, you will notice that some of the Flex kit that they are actually producing does have that option. So if power is not as important to you and you want the ability to change color, let Wescott know. They may end up making the Peter Hurley kit later on where you actually can change the color output. We did a few comparison tests between the light panel and the Flex kit, and there were some similarities and some differences. First of all, with the light panel, it was much more of a spotlight. You can actually see on all of these little LEDs, there's a little lens, and it's kind of directing the light very forward. So it created a spotlight on the back of the wall. When we compare that with the Flex kit, these are shining light all over the place. There's no lenses on top of the LEDs. I would imagine that makes it a little bit brighter overall, but it also doesn't direct the light forward, so you're gonna get a lot more spill with these lights. Something else that's really cool with the light panel system is it's very modular at this point. You can actually take off the back and add a DMX panel. So if you wanted to plug in a cable and control the power and the color of this light externally without having to actually go up and touch the unit, you're gonna be able to do that. You will not be able to do that with the Flex kit system. There's also a mounting bracket down here that you could stick a battery if you didn't want to plug this in. You're gonna be able to do that, which is really nice as well. We have been able to use a battery system with the Flex kit, but there just isn't a system in place to mount it and make it easy to use. It's not a problem, but it is worth mentioning. So let's talk about the price on this unit. This one in particular has the double bright version, and it has 2 different color tones. So I believe this one's right around $1,000. If you want just the daylight version for this, it's under $500, which is a really, really good price. But when you compare it with especially the much bigger Flex kit panels, which are 1x3 feet, you can see that you'd have to buy almost 3 of these to get the same size output, the same light output. So when you compare it that way, the price is very similar to the Flex kit. As a photographer who's using completely different sized and shaped lights every single day, it's very easy to look at these light panels and just think, well, I want them to be bigger and bigger and softer. But if you ever want to have a hard light or a beauty dish light or a snooted look, you're not going to be able to create that with any LED panel like this. You're almost going to have to buy a completely separate light. But the nice thing is, being that you can just pull this off, I could just stick this in any size softbox, kind of roll it up, stick it in there, use a piece of tape if I needed to, and I could pretty much produce any size light that I can imagine, and you'd never be able to do that with a standard light panel. So who are these lights for? Obviously, Peter Hurley wanted these lights because he's accustomed to using large KinoFlow lights, and as you know, traveling with KinoFlows is a huge pain. Traveling with these is infinitely easier. The issue that I see with this system when it comes to traveling is that the bag that it comes in particular, is big enough to where you can actually put the lights back in the bag fully put together. There's really no reason to take them apart once you've put them together if you're going to be using the bag that it comes with. Keep in mind that if you're going to be using these around town, the bag that it comes with is going to give you extra room to put other pieces of your kit in there. But if you're going to be flying around a lot and you want to travel with these, the bag that it comes with is an oversized bag. You're going to be charged extra by the airline, so you may want to consolidate a little bit, get a smaller bag just for flying. At the end of the day, I am very excited about these lights. They're certainly not perfect for every scenario, but the idea that you can completely take them apart and just use the flex panel by itself. I mean, I have a professional videographer right over here who's looking at these, and he was saying, man, I don't even need the frames. I could just clamp them to a light stand and boom, I have a light. That's the lightest light I've ever seen in my life. And that's true. It just gives you many options, whereas using a standard light panel that's already one big piece of heavy metal really doesn't give you many options in the way that you use it. I also like the fact that you can easily use hard light if you don't want to use the scrim on the front. And I like the fact that you can just put this on there if you want, get a much softer looking light very, very quickly and easily. I just like how modular this system is. There's so many different ways to use it, and if this is the type of product that you've been waiting for a long time, I really don't think there's any competition out there. This is a very unique product, and I think it's solving a big issue that a lot of us photographers and videographers currently have.
If you enjoyed this photography-related video, check out some of our other photography tutorials and behind-the-scenes videos here. And please, feel free to subscribe to the official Fstoppers YouTube channel below.